meeting, which we had to organize at very short notice. Largely because we had wonderful people coming to Bangalore at the same time. And we said, why not bring them all together? And the other doyens of organic farming, the doyens who challenged GMOs, learned explained how agriculture is being taken over by agribusiness corporations and so on. And in the midst of that itself makes me feel healthier. I was quite sick this morning and I thought I was going to make it. But here I am, and hopefully will last. And actually from my voice also, we also do a good job. So that's the kind of energy they bring to Bangalore. And we heard that we will actually organize a press conference. We just finished that a while ago. From there we came here to address what I feel, and I hope you all feel as well. It's probably the most dangerous thing that is going to happen today. That's this whole movement to take away from farmers their capacity to decide for themselves. And it has been happening for a while now in many forms. It's been happening from the 1960s to Green Revolution, GMO Revolution. Never did we ever imagine that we would have a budget which would speak of zero budget farm, which means nothing. Right? But it is there in the text of the budget this year. Basically, the Parliament said the Government of India is now going to aggressively promote zero budget farming. All we have to make sense of it. It is serious because 65% of India's population is farm-based. Livelihoods are intricately connected to farming. Or 60% of India's wealth, if you actually take handmade, which is not sold in the market, is also from the farmers. Industry always has excellent methods to claim that they are producing most of the wealth. There's a lot of silent wealth which is produced, which farmers don't have a reason to claim. It's part of the GDP. They're just doing it quietly and producing it, happy that you are happy that you got some food on your table. We've become quite a thankless generation of faith because we demand so much of them that we don't ask how we do it anymore. And it's not just us as people, but I think the systems themselves have turned rather aggressive and look at farmers as part of a technocratic system. But you can retrofit them into any which way that we desire based on the 5-year plans, which of course will become history now with the administration, or quarterly plans as well. So it's becoming highly commodified farming and deeply corporatized, and what worse, it has now become extremely beneficial. So we decided that this is a kind of a threat to farming itself, threat to the very sovereignty of this country. And we yesterday saw what happened in Parliament, the Article 378, how it was carried out of the Constitution. How this government is capable of attacking the most fundamental right that anyone can dream of even the right to express, was muzzled with thousands and thousands of troops. And then we decided that the entire country is watching in awe with this muzzle problem. Now, when I read the text which went into creating the Constitution, what I'm amazed by is the fact that it was not muzzle power that was forming the Constitution. There was a great deal of nuance, compassion, care. These are the values which shaped India. What we now find is the bravado, the chest thumping, 56-inch business. Is what is India's so-called progress. And in the midst of it, we find that we get to hear the promotion of zero budget farming. Now there's a history to it, and we'll go into that later. But before I, welcome you all to interrogate into many of the dimensions dimensions of what this is to all of us, and particularly to the farming community. And let's not forget the pastoral community is integrated into farming as well. I think we must worry that the power to decide is being snatched away from us. The power to decide what we grow, what we wear, what we eat has been systematically snatched away from our hands. Now the power to decide what farmers kill is also being snatched away from our hands. And that's probably the most blunt attack on sovereignty, or blunt attack on sovereignty that one can imagine. As you can see, my throat is playing up again, so I will stop here and I'll quickly introduce our wonderful panel. Immediately to my left is Aruna Rodrigues. By the way, my name is Saldanha. I work with the Environment Group. Aruna has systematically worked on exposing what GMOs has really come, not just to farmers, not just to people. And she is the petitioner in the Supreme Court and has done extraordinary work. Sometimes I feel that with all the universities we have put together, how is it that somebody who's totally out of the university system takes a case to Supreme Court and does some of the finest research that you can ever imagine? She has reached out across the world to find the best evidence to prove that GMO failed a long time ago. And the whole thing that is being thrust on us is such a dangerous thing that if we are not alert, it can even, we can be speculative. Vandana, Shiva, you don't need an introduction. She has, in effect, laid the foundation for all of us to understand how agriculture contributes. Manipulated over time and systematically. Farming systems not just for any country but across. All the world idea has been to capture farming and make farmers a part of a machine, an industrial machine that finally aggregates profit in the hands of agribusiness corporations, and who then control the politics of trade, economics, finance, and our work in arguing for organic farming, arguing for agroecological farming, has been foundational to how movements have shaped their ideas, trade unions have shaped their ideas. And she's also spent some time in Bangalore in the past, and Navdanya just actually started here. It's got a huge place in Dehradun now. I only got to see it last year. Amazed by the amount of work that's going on there. Vishala works with the Buffalo Pack Collective, and she's also part of the participatory Ganguly scheme, organic collective. More recently, what she has done is she has worked on the FSSAI systems. But I critically engaged with people across the spectrum, not just here, but around the country. And I know she's also a practicing farmer in Bangalore. Apart from that, she has a very nice cafe, you should visit it. It's in Jaipur. It's a very, very nice place. And our work on FSSAI is such a fun twisted that I thought of something more simple. Food safety. Essentially, to advance food safety is phenomenal. ಕೈ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸೀರಿಯಸ್ ಮಾತಾಡೋದು ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು
ಸರ್ ಏನೋ ಚೂಚ ಕುಕ್ಕಿ ನೋಡು ತಡ್ಕೊಳಕ್ಕೆ ಬರಲ್ಲ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ
ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು I was introducing Vishala. She's an expert in work on food safety issues, and she's here to explain what we must be alert to and what we must be worried about because of the way in which agribusiness corporations are trying to change our regulatory practices and our standards. Then you won't have control over what you eat, right? You know, the idea of eating what you can decide for yourself is being taken away from us. Bablu has actually practiced the idea of sovereignty in a way that very few people can. We were recently there, we had a workshop there in this collective, it's called the Timbaktu collective. It's not far from Bangalore, but you'll go there and what you'll be surprised by is Kia Motors has set up one of the largest factories that you can ever imagine. It's 3 kilometers long and 2 kilometers deep. So 6 square kilometers is a car factory. And you thought you have traffic jams. Just wait for Kia to start selling their cars.
So they start.
They want to make a profit. And every quarter they have to report a profit. Right? And it's so automated that there are hardly any people running that. Now, if you pass Kia and you'll come across Timbaktu correctly, and it's not visible from the highway. Once you go in, you actually virtually walk into paradise. And how do you create a paradise out of paradise? Because Bablu and Mary started this journey 30 years ago and built a collective. And it's amazing, you know, when we have time, we should have a presentation of their work in Bangalore. 8,000 farmers are part of the collective. They are doing all kinds of everything is produced in a way that everyone participates. It's an amazing model, and unfortunately, Planning Commission or even the so-called NITI Aayog now does not find these models effective. What amazes me even more is that they have done the finest conservation effort that you can imagine. Where 9,000 acres of grasslands, commons, which are overgrazed. They worked with a collective of villages and they protected it. And if you go, Go to Kalpogodi, you can just get lost in this grand beauty of it. It's shocking. And this is their work. But it was then later, the next big meeting, Sainath, who was in Bangalore. And Sainath said, in the same district of Tumku, where Bablu works, there is desertification so extensive that they have dust storms speaking of. Right? So you can see what clear understanding, clear imaginations, and clear ideas can take us. And the whole idea of working with people consistently and over time. So that's the important curriculum, and Bablu is here to explain to us why we need an organic revolution. And last but certainly not the least is Dr. Manjunath. He has set up a school of natural farming in Tumku. And it's quite a thing that he does. Every week there are farmers from across South Asia, South India, who turn up there and try and learn natural farming. And he's so open to ideas that it's not natural farming at all. It's basically trying to use that expression which is easy to relate with and encourage farmers to move out of chemicalized farming. And I don't know how many hundreds of farmers have. He's actually a guy who worked with Monsanto or on BT cotton. Right? So you can see his personal transformation. He's also transcended into a transformation which is very deep in especially the dry areas of Karnataka. And almost every day is traveling and meeting farmers, sometimes Kola, sometimes Tumku, sometimes somewhere recently I had the chance of working with him on developing a draft of natural farming policy for Africa. And there's so much insight I think he's going to bring to this meeting because he's going to talk about what that draft is about. So these are the introductions and the reason why we are here. We have a couple of hours to go deep into the issues that we have come together about. And you know the topic is already shared with you. And let's just follow the order as is in the program. And I request Vandana.
Thank you, Leo. And I'm back in my neighborhood in the early 80s. I used to have my office in IIM on Double Road. When it was still on Double Road. I hadn't moved out of town. I wasn't supposed to work on agriculture. It's the Bhopal disaster of 84 and the Punjab explosion of violence. I'd done my MSc honors in physics from Punjab. And it had been a peaceful state. And then by 84, it was, army had to be sent. So those days I was working for the United Nations University and I said to them, something's going wrong here, can I please study it? And I did my book, The Violence of the Green Revolution. And realized then that we had been sold a propaganda in the name of Green Revolution, largely to sell the leftover chemicals of Nazi Germany and the Left War. The chemical fertilizers basically are made in the same factories with the same methods that are used to make explosives and ammunition, which is why so many bombs are fertilizer bombs across the world. In Oklahoma, in Oslo, in Hyderabad, in the Delhi High Court, all over Afghanistan, fertilizer bombs. The pesticides, all of them descend from the gases that were used to kill people in the concentration camps. So today is Hiroshima Day, and that one bomb killed 70,000 people. And it's a tragedy we never want to repeat. But just think of the basic figures related to chemical warfare agriculture, which is what I call industrial chemical farming. What the costs have been, besides the concentration camps, besides the deaths during war. Every year now, 9 million people are dying of cancer, and this will continue to increase. Hunger, which was supposed to have forever been removed by chemicals, and industrial farming, and globalized agriculture, has now reached such proportion. I was with the Director General of FAO the other day at an event, and he said we are shocked. Not only is the figure of the hungry going up to 1 billion today, he said we have a new figure of how many people in the world aren't sure they eat all of the next week. It's too big. And this includes people in rich countries, children, the people in the food deserts. And everything was done in the name of feeding the world. The GMOs were brought in the name of feeding the world. In fact, I started Navdanya because 87. At a meeting, the old chemical industry that had made the chemicals for Hitler's Germany, whom I call the poison cartel, because how can you talk about the 500 kinds of pesticides and the 200 kinds of weedicides and have a coherent conversation? Something has to connect it all, and it's the poison and the toxicity. They at a meeting in 87 said, we're not making enough money from chemicals, we have to start owning the seed. And genetic engineering, which at that time was not a commercial product, was merely the tool of recombinant DNA, said we got to use it in order to take patents. And when we have patents, every farmer will have to buy seed from us. By the year 2000, there will be 5 companies controlling all food and all health. And we need an international treaty that will force it on the world because Europe and America aren't good enough as markets. That's the first time I heard the word GATT. I started to monitor it, I started to work with our master in Geneva. And it was because of GATT, we organized the 500,000 rally in '93 in the city in Common Park to say no to GATT. Now there are 3 agreements of the GATT which became WTO, which are totally deadly for farmers. The first is the intellectual property agreement, and we managed through our governments of that time to put in a clause 3J which says plants, animals, seeds are not inventions, therefore can't be patented. That's what's defending our farmers to what level they are. And even this spring, we were fighting Monsanto at the courts on 3J. There's a clause 39 in a law which I was invited to write by my Chathuran and Mishra, the agriculture minister of that time. We said we are not an industrial breeding system, we are a farmer's breeding system. 80% of our seed used to be in farmers' hands. And he was brilliant enough to say, we'll write our own law on plant varieties and farmers' rights. This is the law that forced Pepsi to withdraw its case against 3 farmers in Gujarat when they were suing them on the road. The second agreement is the agricultural agreement, designed to take over every market by agribusiness. Collect subsidies from both ends. I'll give you a simple example of soya bean. 98, suddenly our edible oils were banned. 5 million kolus, the village gardens, were shut down. 5 million. And before FSSAI, they passed an order, no one can make their own oil. They tried to shut Gandhi's honey down a few years ago, and I had to do a satyagraha. And interestingly, these rules of that time, which are in fact repeated in the FSSAI, are if you don't have a lab and 2 chemists, you can't make oil. So we did a satyagraha, we brought the sarson back, and the fact that today everyone is selling kachi ghani ka tel is because of our satyagraha. The rules still don't allow it actually, because no one has a lab and 2 chemists. The attempt to take over, and I remember the GM soya industry said, India is the El Dorado of soya. We can sell them dal, substitute, they call it analog dal, grind up soya powder, convert it into a green colored thing for moon, yellow colored for tur, different shape for chana. It didn't work. Nobody wanted it. The poorest women didn't want it. Totally failed, totally rejected. We used to have a PFA, Prevention of Food Adulteration Act. This was displaced by FSSAI. Prevention of food adulteration said you could not add anything that's not edible in the food. FSSAI say only the inedible must be in food, and if you produce pure food, we will criminalize you. So I'm so glad to take this up. It's literally a criminalizing of all our desi foods. How many snacks have shut down? Women can't make, we help women to make their artisanal foods. The inspectors are at the door every day. Why didn't you measure how much namak and how much haldi went into this pickle? Which little enterprise will survive with the kind of food safety standards? But coming back to what is the legacy of the Green Revolution from the 60s to when it started to fail in the 80s, the second Green Revolution, GMOs illegally brought in 98, which is when we started the Monsanto Quit India movement, and K.R. Rasef was part of uprooting here. Andhra farmers were part of uprooting. Agriculture minister uprooted the illegal BT cotton, and we filed a case in 99 because it was totally illegal. Monsanto has a very clear way: spread illegally, then regularize, because by then you've got enough people who have a stake in the crime. So they legalized BT cotton, now they want to legalize herbicide resistant, and Aruna will tell you much more about it. So first we were told chemicals will feed us, then we were told GMOs will feed us, and now we are being told zero will feed us. Where did this word zero budget come from? Especially from a man who insists organic is important. He hasn't read his history. He has no idea about agriculture. Bablu will tell you about why he doesn't understand agriculture. But the history say, I read this when I was trying to write my book on the Green Revolution to figure out what went wrong. 1905, the British Empire wanted to improve Indian agriculture, which is why I told our technician not to improve. And he came here, he was the top economic botanist. There was no discipline called agriculture then. Economic botanist. Botany for commerce. And he arrives in Pusa to set up the Pusa Institute. And he says the soils are fertile. There are no pests damaging the fields. I decided to make the pest and the peasant my professor, and I've studied under them. He wrote the classic, which is published by Healthcare Books, called The Agricultural Testament. I recommend each of you to look for a copy and read. And in that he says so clearly that in India, in the fields of today, you find farming that's as permanent as the forest, because they farm in the ways of the forest and the ways of nature. And he distilled two principles. The principle of, I think my silly thing isn't working. Is it working? It's all right? Yeah. The first principle is diversity. He said in India no one farms a monoculture. Mixed farming is the way. And the second, the most important, is the law of return. Giving back to the earth part of what the earth has given. That is organic matter. The earth produces organic matter. We eat some, we save some for seed, give some to our animals, the rest we give back to the earth. I'll leave it to Bablu to explain why bringing back organic matter to the soil is so vital to avoiding desertification, avoiding the water emergency, avoiding all the disasters Indian agriculture are facing. But globally, the Intergovernmental Panel on Biodiversity has said we have 10 years to stop this form of farming before it wipes out biodiversity, including the insects, but degrades the land. All refugee crises is because of land degradation. The IPCC, the Climate Treaty, has said in 12 years we don't shift around from a fossil fuel system. And they've just recognized for the first time that industrial farming has a big role in climate change. I wrote a book, Soil or Oil, that 50% emissions come from this kind of farming. Now, of course, the Monsantos and all carry on to say, oh, organic produces more emissions. It takes out the excess carbon dioxide from the air and puts it back. Only the GM soya-fed cows aren't. The grass-fed cows don't. Otherwise we wouldn't be using all their products so enthusiastically. So we are at this vital moment where it's so clear that this system of agriculture is destroying the planet. We have a window of 10 years. It's destroying India. We lost 300,000 farmers to suicide. There were no suicides when we were protesting against WTO Act. We have managed in this period to push every second Indian child to severe malnutrition. They're wasted and stunted. And what does the government do to address these two big problems of farmers' suicides and hunger? Shut down the agencies that monitor it. So it's like, don't look, don't see, and say it doesn't happen. Two biggest crises we face as a nation: the suicides of our primary producers and the death of half of India's children. And stunting. It doesn't have to be that way, because ecological agriculture and agroecology of all the families within it could be natural farming, it could be organic, it could be biodynamic, just like Harvard took organic from India to the world. Rudolf Steiner took biodynamic from India to the world. The different systems of agroecology, and now, fortunately, we do have a system that names them all as one, just like the poisons are the poison cartel, and the ecological alternatives are the discipline of agroecology, sophisticated science that understands that the soil is alive, the seed is evolving, that systems function as systems. Now you have, Monsanto had attacked me in 98 when I filed, 99, when I filed the Supreme Court case, and said I'm bringing in an alien technology to India called organic farming. So I started to organize the Harvard lectures. Now we have someone who's calling organic farming an atom bomb and sounding so much like Monsanto 20 years ago. Also sounds like Monsanto because Monsanto pushed BT cotton as a miracle and its failures Aruna will tell you. And he says BT cotton is very good. We've done studies on Vidarbha soils. 66% microorganisms are gone, beneficial microorganisms. He only talks about microorganisms, but talks about BT cotton, which is killing the microorganisms, and has no idea about soil, and has no idea about systems. He has no idea about ecosystems. He has no idea about economic systems. He has no idea about India's agroecological history. And is a denialist at the highest order. All he's done is pick 4 time-tested techniques that are in every ancient text on farming in India, are used by every ecological farmer, whether it be permaculture or biodynamic or organic or natural, and claims they are his inventions. I have called it the first biopiracy of the entire Indian civilization. So far we fought biopiracy of neem, the biopiracy of wheat, the biopiracy of basmati. Now we have to together fight the biopiracy of Indian civilization to shut the future for us. Why is zero budget shutting the future? It's a meaningless term in the science of agroecology. It means nothing. And the fact that country after country, state after state is being told adopt zero budget shows how big the powers are to turn our heads into empty heads. Yeah? The British colonized us with a phrase called terra nullius, the earth is empty. If we are not there as white people, it's empty. Then they say, bio-nullius, when Monsanto said, if we don't have a patent and our gene isn't there, life is empty. Now, with zero budget, they're talking about mente nullius. The mind is empty. If we don't zero the Indian mind, how will we take over? The word zero budget is an English phrase. For someone who claims Swadeshi Pan, this is anti-Swadeshi. Surely he could have picked Sendriya Kheti from his gurus in Maharashtra, or Sajeev Kheti, or Prakriti Kheti. Hundreds of words we have. And I suggest when we do our collective report, like there is Lalita Sahasranam, the 1,000 names of the divine, we should write the Krishi Sahasranam, the 1,000 name of good farming and agroecology. This land has so much richness of imagination and languages and practices. I think we can generate 1,000 names. That's a challenge I would like us to take out of this workshop. But what does budget mean? And I sent this message to Nirmala Sitaraman. I said, Nirmala ji, a budget isn't just expenditure. A budget is income and expenditure, and the dictionary definition is an estimate of income and expenditure for a set period of time. Now, over a year, if you tell the farmer you have zero budget, you're in effect saying you will have zero income at the end of the year. And that's the real reason why it's being promoted so heavily. To empty our minds and empty the farmers' pockets. Because Walmart is involved in the Andhra Pradesh model. Walmart is buying. And we've just done a report. I have a few copies, but you can download it from Navdanya International. It's called The Future of Our Daily Bread, Regeneration or Collapse. And we just did the economics of when the big chains come in. Whether it be Pepsi taking potato. 5 rupees a kilo for 5 rupees for 50 kilogram of potato, and for a 20-gram packet of chips, 20 rupees. It's a 20,000% jump of profits. The big trade pays 1%, 2% to the farmer, to the producer. That's the zero of the free trade that we stopped so far. That is the real intention behind zero budget. It is about an economics of diseconomy for the farmer. We've also consolidated, because I was giving a talk with the last agriculture minister, and he was promoting organic. He's been edged out too. And this publisher said, Dr. Shiva, we never heard of agriculture in organic. We thought it's just products that get sold. You know? That it's a selling thing. I said, no, it's the most sophisticated science discipline, which is why someone like me who did a PhD in Foundations of Quantum Theory feels so excited about exploring the relationships. So we did a book called Biodiversity, Agroecology and Regenerative Organic Farming. It's available from Westville Press. And every year, September or first to the end, we do a whole course on the A to Z of biodiversity, agroecology, the farmer's economy, our nutrition and health, because the biggest health disaster today is food. And our studies have shown that the shadow of this system for India, for social and environmental damage, is 1.3 trillion, and if you add the health, it's probably about 3.5 trillion. So of course we can reach a 5 trillion economy very easily. More clinics, more diagnostics, more dialysis, very, very easy. On the other hand, with seed sovereignty, food sovereignty, and maintaining your head, knowledge sovereignty, and not going to zero, our farmers are earning 10 times more than the commodity farmers, and we can feed 2 times India's population. The zero is not just zero income for farmers, it's not just zero mind and thinking and decision in our heads. It's also a system of reaching zero nutritive quality in our food, because our food is becoming nutritionally empty. So I'm glad you're all here for this workshop, and I hope you will follow up to defend the authentic ecological agriculture systems and stop this fraud, which is a follow-up on the same path of the Green Revolution and the GMO. It's just that now it is a direct assault on the economy of the farmer.
I think we'll take questions together later. So just you want to make intervention by Aruna.
Good afternoon. I'm happy to be here in this company, fortunate to be here. It's the first time I'm really keeping company and met many of these. Vandana, I know, of course, from the Supreme Court. That's where we met. I'm an unlikely practitioner in the Supreme Court, partly because I've been out so long, and because I don't have science background. What galvanized me, I've got an environment. What galvanized me when I came back to India, into my in-laws, was the fact that there was a danger that I didn't know what nutrition I was going to get from the food I ate. And that touched a raw nerve. I always say that Providence has a way of getting through to people. See, I'm a nutrition buff. I just love nutrition. If I had my life again, I would be a nutrition scientist. And so he got me. But the 2 things I never wanted to do really in life, one was to be a lawyer, and the other was to be a scientist. I thought both related the truth. Science, I'm sorry, Vandana, good science and bad science. You get onto different bandwagons as the conduct goes, theory changes. You need to get onto the next bandwagon. The irony of life is that I'm into science in a way that I never thought I would be. And I'm into lawyers with courts, front door, back door, side doors, so someone has a sensitivity. In this issue of agroecology, GMOs has very vital anti-case, let me put it that way. It needs to be out of the equation entirely. The main reason why it needs to be out of the equation is because once you release a GMO into the environment, nature takes over. Absolute certain contamination. The reason why Monsanto and the biotechnology companies led by Monsanto, now Bayer, have come into India is because we are one of 17 hotspots around the world for genetic diversity. No seed or patent that Monsanto or any bio company or Syngenta, they need genes from nature in order to engineer their products. They cannot do it out of the air. They're always going to need genes. Now, if they capture the genetic diversity of the world and the hotspots, we will have to go to the Monsantos for their products. We will not have that genetic diversity. India at the moment still has it. So they come into India in 2002 in cotton. And what do they try to do? They have no patents because India doesn't at the moment allow patents. And in Balgard 1, which was their first BT cotton, along with our government, they contrived a situation where they were going to put it into engineer hybrids, the first country in the world to put a genetic engineered product into a hybrid seed. It's not done anywhere, not in America, because in America, Monsanto has been able to go to farmers and do contracts. You will not plant a variety back, we will sue you. So they've got contracts. Now in India, that would not work. We're a country of small farmers. So they contrive a situation, and I think this is really anti-national in a very, very big way, that you put a seed, an engineered seed into a hybrid cotton, so that farmers have to sow the seed each time. The price of BT cotton seed in 2002 went up by 2,000%. Since then, government intervention, it's down. I'm not quite sure what the differential today is. I still think it's about 4 or 5 times, I could be wrong. It's about 14 or 1,500, no, 800 rupees a packet of 450 grams. A normal non-BT bridge or BT cotton seed is probably about 75 or 80. That's still the differential. But what has happened today is because the government, regulator with the ICAR, Indian Council for Agricultural Research, was pushing Monsanto, they put out more than 1,000 varieties of BT cotton. By today, we have more than 1,000 varieties. The farmers had no idea what they were planting and whether it was suitable or not suitable. Now, I want to cut a long story short because there's still quite a lot to say about GMO. BT cotton has failed clearly. There's no doubt about it. The central government has admitted this in the High Court in Delhi. But in the Supreme Court, we have a situation where the Ministry of Environment, which houses the apex regulator, has said that BT cotton is such an outstanding success that we need to put the BT into all our vegetables and food crops. And they want to do it in hybrids. One of the reasons why we have massive suicides among farmers today, and virtually all the farmers' suicides are among cotton farmers. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that BT cotton is the only reason for farmer suicides. What I'm saying is that it broke the camel's back. That was the final straw that led to all of these suicides. We've got 300,000 in the last 20 years, I think this is the figure. So coming back to GMO, the reason why we must keep it out of agriculture, quite apart from the fact that there are health problems, massive health problems among animals, human beings, massive environmental problems, is that once it's into the atmosphere, to the environment, it contaminates non-GMO. If you contaminate non-GMO, you have no organic, you have no hope for any organic, you have no agroecology, which is part of the extended umbrella. You can say goodbye to all of these solutions in agriculture. And I will come to the point where agroecology is the only way to go. We don't have a choice at the moment, reasons of climate change, insect depletion. In fact, we're losing our insects at the rate of 40% in another 30 years. If we go that way, we cannot exist. So contamination is the biggest single issue why GMOs have to be kept out. The good thing about the Supreme Court cases as of now is we have managed to contain it to 85. They've not gone further. But within this year, we are facing a really, really hard, critical point because they want to bring in mustard by the end of the year. We have illegal BT brinjal, illegal HT soya, illegal HT BT, all of these going on at the same time. I've just returned from Delhi. We're trying to move the Supreme Court next month. So the point is, if you have contamination of your genetic seed stock, then it's gone forever. If there's any toxicity in a BTC or an HTC, it will remain forever at the molecular level. We can't go back. This is the reason why the precautionary principle is so critical in this particular technology. I'd like to just give you an analogy with DDT. In the 1960s, DDT was banned from a number of countries because birds were disappearing. However, by the year 2000, they had no real evidence that DDT was causing any kind of cancer. Look where you want, they couldn't get the evidence. And so in the 60s, in the 70s, people like Norman Bohler were talking about how ridiculous is the layperson and the laity and Rachel Carson going abroad advertising that DDT causes cancer. Says it's got the safest record that you can find. In fact, he was right, in a sense, because the scientists are all looking in the wrong place. Now you can keep looking in the wrong place and you'll never find the links. Not until the year 2000 did they find a link between DDT and cancer. There was a remarkable lady who, in her radiation research, realized that age was a great factor for cancer. It was age-related. So she went back to a subset, and I think you can only do this in America. She went back to a subset of data, dating from the 1960s, and she wanted it for women in the age group of 11 to 15 or 14. Before menage, before maturity sensitive. She found it. And then everything split out. She found the connection between breast cancer, down generations, 4 generations, 5 generations, to all kinds of other cancers, including that. So, what I said in the Supreme Court, based on this, is that if we have to wait for the kind of time to find the links between GMOs and hazardous cancers, all kinds of Alzheimer's, you name it. And if we have to wait even 10 years after GMOs are introduced, then we can do nothing. So would you please bring in and follow the precautionary principle principle which is a precedent in our courts, and it is part of our constitution. We can't wait for a DDT example 40 years later. We can't wait next year because we will have contamination. When a GMO is commercialized, the contamination is certain. There's no question about it. So, they wanted BT Brinjal. This was in 2010. We have 2,500 varieties of BT Brinjal with about 29 wild varieties, all of which have been fully contaminated. We forced the government to release the dossier of 5,000 pages into the public domain. After the order, it took them 16 months to comply. We went for a contempt petition. Eventually, they complied in 2008, August. As soon as they did, I have a very special team of what I call warrior scientists around the world. I'm sorry to say not one of them is India. We just one. Pushpa, at that time, wasn't BT Brinjal. I didn't go to them. He came later. I wrote to them with the dossier data. I said, please come into this. They did. I don't know too many scientists across the world, UN advisors, you name it, WHO. They all linked into the dossier, responded to their area of expertise, and sent us 12 reports on BT Brinjal. The most telling of them was a 500-page report by one of the leading environmental GMO scientists called David Anna. He said, there are 37 environmental studies which the government or Monsanto should have done on brinjal. 36 of the 37 have not been done, and then some. In other words, the 37 was also sort of halfway. Geneticist Jack Hanneman came through and said the molecular characterization, what they have done on the genetics, is so poor that high school students would have done better. And eventually, BT Brinjal was stopped by Jairam Ramesh, combination of Supreme Court data and Jairam Ramesh's own ability to run a 3-month inquiry into this whole process. And in February 2010, he put a moratorium on BT Brinjal. I'm just explaining the kind of skullduggery that is going on today and why India is such a focus with our genetic diversity. Mustard, believe it or not, is following the course of BT cotton. They want to put it into hybrids in a technology which is called a hybrid making technology. If we have 2,500 varieties of BT cotton, we've got nearly 10,000 accessions of mustard in our gene banks. This is the extent to which our government is failing us. By the way, the Supreme Court action is not against Monsanto, because I don't think Monsanto is Indian. Why should we fight Monsanto? We are fighting our own government. It's the Ministry of Environment, it's the Ministry of Science and Technology, and it's the Ministry of Agriculture. These are the respondents in the Supreme Court. BT cotton, the data is clear. It has failed. Yields are down to less than 500 kilos per hectare. To give you some idea, before BT cotton was introduced, our yields were already climbing by a percentage of something like 67% between 1995 and 2008. Thereafter, we are in a straight decline. We are dipping at 500 kilos per hectare. We're 31st among countries who grow cotton. And among those countries, the African countries who don't have too many resources, and 10 of them don't grow BT cotton. They exceed our yields. Insecticide use was the main reason for BT cotton, to decrease insecticide use. That has doubled. Cost of production has gone up 4 times, and so on and so forth. There is no question except that it has failed. So what does the government do in order to mislead people that we are an outstanding success in BT cotton? They use total area and production, not yield, which has gone up. The economy of cotton has gone up because 95% of all cotton now is BTs, and the area under cotton has gone up exponentially. It's dropping now, but for 10 years it just went straight up, but not the yield. That is the productivity gauge, and this is how they mislead just about everybody. In the last 2 months, we've had a study from an interdisciplinary group that has said that insect populations are collapsing. The world is collapsing. And I was expecting to find climate change on the top. It's industrial agriculture in the West, which GM feeds into. GM promotes industrial agriculture and reduces your biodiversity because it's a monoculture. BT cotton has destroyed all non-BT sources of seed, not because of contamination. We've been lucky, by the way. Our Indian desi cotton is a completely different variety, hasn't been contaminated. But they so discouraged any production of non-BT, like desi cotton, that all production virtually closed down. So today we're 95% BT. The collapse of insects, which GM cotton feed, with GM products feed into, is a monoculture, decreasing biodiversity, one kind of seed or 2 kinds of seed. In America today, you can't buy non-GM soy seeds. You can't buy GM soya and mustard and grape. Virtually impossible to find. Farmers have to go and really look, and they've got to be in some remote corner where they will not be contaminated. In Canada, grape has just contaminated the whole of Canada. You cannot find organic grape in Canada anymore. They're all contaminated. So, climate change wasn't number one. It was industrial agriculture. Then the report goes on to say, the way out of it is agroecology. Now, I sat up because I thought that maybe the government of India, the Prime Minister, and this goes back to 2 Prime Ministers, Manjunath as well as Modi. If we've got unequivocal evidence that this is the way to go, and it feeds into Indian competitive advantage, because you've heard about the talk about organic being, Indian organic being virtually the learning fields of the world, then it makes sense to me that they should at least listen to us, that this is the way to go. We can't go GMO, we can't go chemical. Look at the sicknesses, the statistics are clear. The interesting thing is, if you take agroecology with agroforestry and forestry, you can pull out sufficient carbon from the atmosphere to stop the 1.5 degree pathway to global warming, where we will not be able to recover. We've got about 15 years to do this. If we can manage to do this, we might just save that 0.5 degrees centigrade and stop the tipping forever. So it seems to me that, you know, the evidence is so clear. If we could move our government, if I could ask you people to write in to the Prime Minister, bombard PMO with letters, this is what we need to do, and the data is in a piece of paper you've got in case you need to email, it's all there. And I would ask you all to please get into this kind of thing and just bombard the PMO with letters. Thank you.
First, I think I should thank Leo for calling me out today because I guess still yesterday I was kind of thinking on whether I should come and speak because the whole subject of agroecology and what I've been trying to do for the last 2 years with FSSAI kind of looked like I'm actually in a taste state because that's what FSSAI has done to me in the last 2 years. And thanks to Vandana for introducing FSSAI to all of you here. I would actually, I think that I can make a very classic statement and say that FSSAI has an authority which is supposed to ensure safe food for everyone in this country has no clue what safe food means. Absolutely no idea what safe food means. And somebody like me who was just busy farming for 5 years in a village which has extremely poor, very, very small farmers who probably have land holding less than an acre a family. And being there for 5 years, I've seen only small farmers and I've seen the struggle of how agriculture, aggregating and then getting into the market has been a huge task for all of us. It's taken years for us to make market understand what it is. And what actually took me to FSSAI was, I still call it a wild card entry to FSSAI. Because for a group of us, for a volunteer-driven group like us who were working, trying to figure out on how to educate the Bangalore market on what organic food is, because we realized that Bangalore has around 550 organic stores, and I would say 95% of what the shelves carry is industrialized organic food, neatly packed, carrying certificates, claiming to be organic, grown food. So for us, it has been a 5 years of challenge trying to understand what consumers actually understand what organic food is. And as we were trying to figure out if retailers would be a part of this and could actually start communicating with people is when I understood that FSSAI has come up with a regulation for organic food. And it was pretty simple. It was just a 1.5-page regulation. It was really simple. And reading the 1.5-page regulation, I was actually surprised. I said, wow, with this 1.5-page of regulation, FSSAI expects consumers to be aware of what exactly safe food is and what exactly organic food is. I said there must be something more beyond this, and probably FSSAI has done enough research to actually distill down to a 1.5-page regulation. So I just walked into the Delhi office and said, now, we don't know how to comply with this regulation. Because we are extremely small farmers, and we have no clue how to get ourselves certified, and then still have a presence in the market and still call ourselves organic. So I was just pointing out to one statement in the regulation saying that, look, there is participative guarantee system certification, and we are told that small farmers can get themselves certified under this participative guarantee system. So I said, okay, now let's understand what participative guarantee system is. FSSAI clearly said we have no clue. And why? Because we don't have a mandate. So the history is that FSSAI is under the Ministry of Health, and this is a body which works like a corporate. It's managed by a CEO. And what I also figured out when eventually I landed up in the expert committee is that FSSAI's material, based on which they actually, the ones that basically go into their files, as enough research that's being done or enough consultations that's being done, are all PPPs prepared by corporates. PPPs prepared by them, data provided by them, data sets from across the globe provided by them on best practices of processing food, safe practices of processing food, all based on international standards provided to them. And FSSAI actually makes their regulations based on these books that's given to them by government. So I was told, now you have this participative guarantee system which is supposed to be for small farmers, why don't you go and talk to them? And then I said, okay, now how is FSSAI going to interact with this? Yeah. They said, no, we always have a problem with the Ministry of Agriculture. It's never been easy for FSSAI to work with the Ministry of Agriculture. So we have told them, you guys ensure that certificate is given. And only when the certificate is there, will we allow the claim of organic to be pasted on that product once it reaches the market. And then it was actually a wild goose chase, trying to figure out what EGS is and how the system is being managed. And finally, at some point, I realized it is a tech tool. NIC, a department by the Ministry of Agriculture, has actually just created a technology tool which requires humongous amount of data to be filled in English. Disseminated by the Ministry of Agriculture in Delhi, expecting every farmer in this country, small farmer. And this technology tool is supposed to be utilized by small farmers to enter their data on production, journal their daily activities of organic farming, and also ensure that their produce is traced to the last grain. Because FSSAI regulation somehow had this insistence, or because FSSAI felt there should be no loss of safety in organic food by contamination by non-organic or conventionally grown food. So they wanted every grain to be traced back to every farmer using a technology tool. So I came back to FSSAI and said, look, this is a technology tool which is in English, and all farmers are expected to comply with this, and this is not happening. And your regulation is not something that we all will be able to comply with. We need an exemption from this. So they were actually surprised. They said, no, we have no clue how organic agriculture happens or how certification happens. We haven't really gone into the details of it because that's not what we do. Our forte is only about the biochemical analysis of food, and after the primary agriculture processing is done, when it gets into actually processed foods is when we have our mandate. But then the CEO kind of said, okay, let's also try to understand what exactly happens with small farmers. Can we do a small farmer consultation? Can we have some small farmers coming and explaining? And what was shocking was that in the small farmer consultation, when the FSSAI experts and the scientists sat down, for the first time, they were hearing about indigenous ways of processing, like making jaggery in a small scale, having small hand-pounded paddy units or hand dal mills. They were hearing all this for the first time because they were given with a set of standards, organic processing standards, which again was prepared by the industry back in the 80s when the export certification was designed. So this set of standard was provided saying that every farmer in this country should follow these standards. And these standards clearly say that there should be certified processing units to which the farmers should take their produce wherever they are. In many instances, the certified processing units are probably 300 kilometers away from the farmers' communities. So this is what the standards say. And then it was a continuous, I think it was 6 months of back and forth between the Ministry of Agriculture and the FSSAI, figuring out on where is the connecting link between where the Ministry of Agriculture stops its mandate or on certification, and from where is FSSAI going to actually pick it up. So there was this broken link, which neither the Ministry of Agriculture nor the FSSAI authorities wanted to really work. So it was a very clear technology platform given saying that, look, we don't care. As long as you finish your process there and then put all the details on this platform here, and then we plug our API to this platform and we pick up information from there. So we said, how are we going to do all this? This looks ridiculously tough and there is no way we are going to do it. And then there are actually attempts. There were attempts by us to try to put information. The systems would crash, the website wouldn't open. And we had to do a hell of a lot of things on taking screenshots, sending them mails every day, sending them reports. I have some of them who worked on auditing the system. We actually did an extensive systems audit of the PGS system and have given them a 60-page report. And by the time we could do all this, what happened, another thing that happened was our zero budget walked into the policy. So 1.5 years of trying to figure out on what exactly FSSAI thinks organic food is and what their understanding of agriculture is, and then in literally educating it. And there are many of us who spend our time educating the FSSAI officials on what agriculture systems and how they work and how small farmers actually produce. So after all this, when the report was given and then I was called upon the National Advisory Committees in Ministry of Agriculture to actually talk about the systems, it was a 3-hour meeting and 2.5 hours was spent talking about ZBNF systems, because other entities, the ZBNF system have developed their own technical and technology-based platform in which they have been capturing data of the farmers and the produce on their own. And the whole dialogue was about how to now get this system plugged into this already ridiculous technology platform that the Ministry of Agriculture had. So there was absolutely no initiative and absolutely no inclination to set right this system. And the last we heard after this happened, and then there were elections and there were something else, and then they said, no, we are waiting for some more information to come and we are waiting for the systems to change because NIC is busy doing something else. And what NIC was busy doing was try to understand the ZBNF system so that they could plug them or take something from there and then make this different. So, I mean, we are ideally till today kept in the dark on what's really happening in the technology platforms that they create. Still then, we had to keep the pressure on our FSSAI saying that, look, your regulation is just not going to work because these small farmers are not getting our certificates. The systems are not working and we are not getting our certificates. So we were told that you all will get 1 year's time. We are going to call this an enabling regulation. And no clue on what they mean by enabling regulation, because we do not see any kind of trainings given to the food inspectors, anything disseminated to state FSSAI commissioners, nothing, absolutely no information on how to handle the regulation in the market. And it's already been around 5 months of the enabling period, so we still have 2 more months to go. But in the whole process, absolutely no initiative for corrections or an understanding because we have given them documents on papers and papers on explaining how agroecology-based agriculture works and how at any point in time a small farmer is likely to have 8 to 10 different produce, and how it is going to be really difficult to trace back on horticulture produce. Fresh produce which have to reach markets on time when they are fresh, and their traceability system actually carries a validation of each transaction, a timely validation of each transaction. So if a farmer is going to carry 10 kgs of vegetables to the market at 4 a.m., before that he will have to make an entry to get a transaction certificate, print it out and take it to the market so that he can claim it to be an organic produce. We actually had to simulate examples, we had to draw illustrations and show them and say that, look, this is what happens in the markets. And with all this, even till date, there has been no effort by FSSAI to actually understand or do the corrections that's necessary, because the suggestion we gave them was we don't really have to regulate organic food like this. We can probably just stick to creating an awareness, because FSSAI carries many mandate. Other than licensing and regulation, they are also largely responsible for creating awareness on safe food in the market. So we said it is our organic food, especially the ones produced by small farmers, still needs a lot of support. So have a base for awareness, creating awareness, and then probably take it to regulations at a later stage. But yes, at present, the last we heard was the last week, people in the bureaucratic system who were actually, I would call them evangelists, because they have been part of the organic movement and they are being influenced by people like Vandana and Claude. And these were the guys who were actually having same conversations with us and trying to put forth some information. And the last week we heard that they have been shifted, they have been removed from their positions. So we have no clue where we are heading towards sorting this for ourselves. And in the meantime, we have had a PGS system which is being started by community organizations like Timbaktu, BTS, all of them coming together in 2006, parallelly really working on strengthening that and trying to put forth communications to people, consumers, basically consumers of organic food, and trying to get them to understand what actually a participative trust-based system is, and trying to communicate to consumers saying that, look, farmers are capable of managing their own production systems. With agriculture and with primary produce, yes, I agree, probably we need intervention of an organization like FSSAI if we are maybe going to make cookies or if we are going to make some process. But even then, at a small scale, like small units like papad or pickle making, I'm sure that they have much more expertise than what the FSSAI was here. Like measuring how many spoons of sodium went into it or what went into it. We don't really need so much of it in the kind of food systems that we are talking about. The smaller food systems, the better food systems, the more nutritious food systems that we are talking about. So these are communications we are trying to step up on and trying to include FSSAI in the whole process, trying to see if they can understand. So far this has been our experience with FSSAI, and if any of us think that they have, it's a 10-year-old organization, like the FSSAI replaced many other accreditation acts around meat and oil, which seem to be, again, great introduced laws in this country, and FSSAI kind of, as an organization, set itself up like a corporate body some 10 years ago. And this is the first, this regulation is, it's the first effort in actually moving from the chemically processed foods to organic food. And now, at this juncture, as of last week, they have also been introduced the concept of ZDNF and things such as those. This, I think I kind of literally told my 2 years of journey with FSSAI, and this is where we stand as on today. And maybe many of you still probably trust FSSAI labels and those disclosures that happen. I mean, I wouldn't bother about them before when I saw them in the market, but after being in Delhi in the FSSAI office, I honestly don't see any.
Thanks for making that.
Just a few supplementary points to what Vishala has said. So as I said, the GATT has a treaty called the Sanitary and Phytosanitary Agreements, which require countries to change their food safety laws to basically corporate laws. So FSSAI, in fact, is the replacement of our sovereign food safety law, the PFA, and about 8 other laws. At the time this was brought up was interesting. Vishala, who's our lawyer on the GMO case, was fighting the Coca-Cola case because we had found out in Coca-Cola's phosphoric acid and antifreeze and all kinds of unedible products, and under PFA it was illegal. And Rajasthan had banned it, Coca-Cola, and the Supreme Court would have banned it. The lawyer of Coca-Cola says you can't try us under the Prevention of Food Adulteration because the law is changing. There will be a new law. And he shakes papers of FSSAI. Coca-Cola knew before the courts knew. Before the parliament knew. So I rang up my parliamentary friends. Said, please look for this law. So we looked for the law. And I did a short piece called Food Fascism. Because this is food fascism. And I rang up the parliamentarians when it was coming for vote. They tapped it on the same day when the nuclear vote was happening. So everyone was too focused on fighting the nuclear deal. And this went through. Now, I remember when this organic standards was being done, we were in my bill. We've got a clause in there which says farmers selling directly without mediators do not need any standard, do not need either PTS or third-party certification. So that clause is very much there. We need to turn it into a political cause. Or wherever we deal directly to build food communities. Because we fought. I remember Agarwal sitting one side, one person whispering. And I said, who's that? He said, no, Dr. Shiva, later. And you speak last. I said, no, I'll speak first. Who's that man who's whispering? Pesticide industry. Wanting pesticides in organic standards, just like in the US they want GMOs and gene editing in organic standards. And the other side was a food processing industry. And Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, safety of street foods, who advises Coca-Cola? Who does the literature? Coca-Cola. Pepsi and Coke. I mean, if you enter FSSAI in Delhi, the shelf only has junk food. And we do need a movement, a strong movement. Yeah. So because on the food system, I mean, India's food economy is the biggest economy available for grab. Whether it's the agriculture side, or the processing side, or the distribution side. And each of us now, to defend our right to food, is not just a farmer's issue. It's about, will we get food to eat? The thing that triggered Aruna's worry. And I think the time has come where cities and the privileged have to play the role of the shifters, using that exemption and direct, like you're doing, directly bringing from farmers, the people who have disposable incomes and disposable time to organize must shape the agricultural transition, and we must set a target that by the time New India of 2022 happens, zero budget is in the budget.
With the direct markets also, there is this whole e-definition of this economic systems now. In case we use a digital platform, I guess even if you use a WhatsApp platform,
No, you can't.
we can't.
No, you can't.
Yes, so with
You got to throw this thing away.
yes, so it's the direct market that's allowed by FSSAI is physically we stand on the streets and sell.
Oh, not
So
different.
if I were to even have a retail space or a regular space in which we conduct those markets, FSSAI asks for it.
No, the farmers are selling there, we can't.
They can, right? Yes, but they expect the farmers to sit there and sell directly and not even other agents.
No, that's fine. It's a farmer's choice. It's fine.
FPOs, we still have conversations with them. They consider FPO as part of it.
Never have a conversation with a corrupt bureaucracy. Do the action to tell them what we're doing.
And I should also tell about the constitution of the expert committee for organic regulation. It has industry representatives, all of them, each one of them from each industry, because the third party certification is also an industry management. So we have 3 representatives from the certification industry and around 5 or 6 from the branded organic industry, and 2 of them from not organic food, conventional food industry. And we have labs, massive large scale labs represented there, and just 1 farmer. And this 1 farmer is an English speaking farmer owning 100 acres of land in Kazakh. And this is the constitution of the expert committee of FSSAI for organic.
What do I say? I'm only a farmer, and I work with farmers. And right now, when she says like this, our farmers cooperative processes and sells about 800 tons of food, organic food. And if it rains well, it may come up to about 1,500 tons. So how do we sell this in the market? And the cooperative with FSSAI giving us all this kind of and we are one of the first who began doing the participatory gallery system of organic certification. So it's kind of quite mind-blowing, and we don't know what we are up against and what is happening. Anyway, I want to talk about, for me, I began this journey almost 40 years ago, more than 40 years ago. Albert Howard called farmers professors. We have been tilling the soil, plowing the soil for the last 5,000 years here. Till the British actually came, historically, we have very few famines. In 1940, Albert Howard really study, I mean, the 20s, 40s. And in 24, Dr. Rudolf Steiner gave these 8 lectures. All of them talk about immune systems, like Vandana. He talks about the cow, he talks about cow dung, talks about urine, talks about manure, he talks about organic matter, not in those terms as it is done now, but in basically talking about the same thing. And now, after 80 years, Indian agriculture is in crisis. And farmers are committing suicide. And I wish I could have shown you some photographs of what I have seen in the last 40 years of soil degradation and soil runoff. Our agriculture has become so bad and so ruinous that it is mind-blowing. I really don't know how much soil we are losing every year. Something happened in this post the Second World War, in which we started adapting agricultural techniques that were completely wrong for us. We went into deep plowing. We went into, of course, chemicals, giving stuff from the outside. We stopped making our own compost, our own manures, and we started depending more and more on monocrop. So one of the theories that I have developed is that we are from the tropics. Monocropping may be okay, I don't know, but may work in the temperate climates. But in the tropical climates, monocropping cannot work, simply because we have so much bacterial development that we have to fool the plants by ever-increasing doses of chemicals to be able to take a monocrop. You know, I've seen in certain areas, like in Germany or in France, 150 kilometers of vine this way and 150 kilometers of vine this way, with a few patches of cabbage here and there. And they're able to make it survive, and some of those are organic farms. And they're able to make it survive. According to me, it's impossible to do it here, organically. I wonder why 3 of our most well-known religions that are monotheistic originated in the temperate and actually were taken up very strongly in the temperate. In the tropical climates, we have large number of species, but smaller populations. In the temperate climates, I have noticed that there are small number of species and large populations. And you can have thousands of acres of pine, thousands of acres of grape. But you don't have it in tropical climates. There is something in this. Anyways, what I'm saying is that a system has been imposed on it. And we have taken it lock, stock, and barrel for some reason. And we have, I feel, and when I say we, I'm talking about the farmers, have lost our connection with the cosmos. We have lost our connection with the earth. We have lost our connection with the sun, moon, stars, etc., which used to guide us in our agricultural practices. You know, Rudolf Steiner talks about it. Albert Howard talked about it. Masanobu Fukuoka talked about it. And every one of these people who were pioneers in the field of agriculture and who talked about the problems of industrial and chemical farming have talked about. To me, food is the essence of life. It's the nutrition of the soil which allows for nutrition of the human and the nutrition of the animal and the nutrition of the plant. If our soil is not healthy, our nation is not healthy. It's a simple thing. There's nothing complex about it. And our soils have over the last 80 years become hugely marginalized, hugely bereft of carbon, the building material, the organic matter. It's been found that in India, we use less or we apply less than 1 metric ton of organic matter to the soil. In fact, on an average, it is 0.3 to 0.4 metric tons. Now, US, which is the United, the agricultural science thing here in USA, and not in the USA. Our UAS from Bangalore. So they have come up with a study which talks about the need of 4 metric tons. However, long back there were studies which said that because of the use of plow and the tillage, we have to replenish soil organic matter, and the minimum that we require is 8 metric tons of organic matter per acre. We use less than 0.3, I mean 1 metric ton, get 0.3 in India already. So to me, the important thing is how do we get this back into the soil? I think Manjunath will be able to explain much better. Basically, when our man, zero budget, Palekar, when Palekar talks about all you have to do is apply GMOs. Okay? And what we done and mulch and something else. He talks nothing about organic. He says this will resolve everything. You know, I have tried. You have seen the green that we have grown. So I have literally tried to cover the soil with organic matter, with leaves. Okay. To be able to take the leaves out and cover the soil with leaves, 1 acre, it costs me 50,000 rupees. Okay. It's not an easy matter just to mulch. It's also not an easy matter to do your farmyard management. But it's comparatively easy because you do it through the year. Over the year, you keep taking your cow dung, you take all this waste that the animals have fed, eaten, not eaten, and dirt, or rather soil, and home, you know, what you don't eat, the waste products, put it into the pit, and it matures over time, and then the rains come, the first rains come in May, and slowly it becomes half-baked compost. It's not real compost. And then you take that whole lot and you put it onto the soil and plow it in. It is in situ composting. Composting happens in the soil slowly, but the carbon matter is put in. Now, of course, it would be even better if we compost and then we add that into the soil and we use it. all I'm trying to say is that we need actually a revolution. We have to grow our soils back. I'm convinced, I am absolutely sure, that nature may take 1,000,000 years to get back that 1 inch of topsoil. I am convinced that we can do it within a few years. 30, 40 years, yes. I mean, compared to cosmic time, 30, 40 years is a drop. But we can do it. In 30, 40 years, we can change the character of our soil if we do it in this fashion. So if someone is coming and saying all you have to do is, that's not going to do anything. Basically because we are down just to our minerals. Organic matter has gone, we only have minerals, we have nothing left. And these microbes are going to eat up all the minerals. And it's not going to convert it into organic matter. And slowly we will be left with sand. And nothing else. Now, Manjunath can explain this even better. But we need to see, Palekar is not wrong in that sense when you look at the technique of it. But your soil has to be really good. You must have organic matter in the soil. And then you apply. It's okay. But if you don't have any soil loss and you're adding organic matter all the time, then yes, this is damn good. It's an inoculant. And we have done it forever. It was done long before Palekar was talking about. He never talks about Panchakavya. Panchakavya has been there forever. Magical. It's been there forever. But what we need to do is we have to add organic matter to our soil, and there is no two ways about it. This is what we have. That's all I want to say. Well, what I also want to say is we need an organic policy. We desperately need an organic policy, and I really would like people like Vandana and others to do something about it. We don't have a policy, and therefore they can get away with all this kind of nonsense that they do. If we can get an organic policy down to everything about farming and how much and what should be done, then maybe we'll be able to do something.
I think a lot of so actually mine will be very brief because of my throat. So much has been spoken of the promotion of zero budget farming, which Jairam Ramesh was one of the first to grab it. I think it really even when the union budget was being spoken out. He says zero budget farming, dropping the word natural. How is that going to make any sense? Right? In other words, it's a disaster that the word natural was found. As long as the word natural was there, it made some sense. That it was oriented around natural farming. But then there are technical problems as Bablu as we shared. And Manjunath will share a little more later. But I'd like to focus on the fact that how does something like this become the program of a state? And the only program of the state. And to me, this has a lot to do not with farmers, but what Davos dictates. If you Google, and you'll find Rishabh Premji, the Panchayat Raj Minister of Andhra Pradesh, and 25 bankers of all the biggest banks of Europe are sitting in a room, and a man for Satyajit Party invites Chandrababu Naidu to make a presentation. And in this presentation, Naidu basically says that I will handle the politics, you guys put the money, and I will turn all the farmers into natural farming. To me, it is not any less a draconian statement than what happened yesterday. You don't arrest the people and then decide for them. At the same time, you don't decide for an entire population of farmers. There are 80 lakh farmers, 8 million farmers in Andhra Pradesh. You don't decide whatever they may do, right? Of course, that Aruna decides about you, for all of us. Yes. The idea here is that our political systems were designed to work with farmers from the ground up. I mean, you can go back to the freedom movement and see what Mahatma Gandhi and J.C. Kumar talked about in terms of what does it really mean to build a gram storage. It was about understanding the intelligence of the farming community, the pastoral community, and trying to build an economy which is self-sustaining and not extractive. Which also means that you don't need to infuse too much of capital and no need of, they didn't even talk about chemicals there. It was an economy which had thrived. And Shashi Tharoor in his book Around Darkness writes a chapter about this. And now, before the East India Company came in, 28% of global GDP was produced from India. More than a quarter of the global GDP was from India, and that is because the village systems knew how to grow things, how to process it, how to manufacture things out of it through the animal, and ensure there is a variety of skills that were available locally and which could prosper. Now switch back to what Chandrababu is saying. He's saying there is a technique and that is successful. And if you look into literature, you will not find any empirical evidence whatsoever about the success of zero budget natural farming, except for the videos that Subhash Palekar has put out, or his followers have put out. Now, one of the things I find very difficult is that we are an argumentative society. And farm is the best place to argue things out. You are arguing the soil, you are arguing the agrobiodiversity. Farmers are arguing with each other, they are arguing with pastoralists. And Nilakanta Kumama is to me one of the finest persons I've met. Apart from all of you. Nilakanta Kumama is a pastoralist. He's 80 years old. And all his life he has walked with sheep. And to me, he has explained how important pastoralism has been to farming in India. That he talks about farmers being invited to be, pastoralists being invited to be with their flocks on the farm and being, sort of bribed to stay a little longer so that the soil gets formed. It was such an intricately beautiful system that we had built over time. That the pastoralists would roam around, bring manure to the sheep would manure the soil, sheep gets the grass, then you produce, and it goes on like that. Now I'm sure Andhra Pradesh farmers know that. And I'm sure they're intricately linked to the system. It is also a region where pastoralism is still alive and thriving. But you will not find any literature whatsoever about them actually being asked. So, in the total absence of empirical evidence, the state makes a shift. And shifts to a technique in which the proponent of it does not even consider it important to have an argument in you are wrong. It's a matter of time that you will just not find us interesting at all to even interact with. Now, what I find very difficult to understand is how to get thousands of farmers to follow a technique in which the farmers are following by faith. Now, I have no problem with faith. But when you continue to do that and the technique becomes a method of the state, and the state uses faith, and that gets infused with capital, both in terms of foundational grants, and what's even more important, the foundational grant is merely to make a network of educators who will go and re-educate farmers on how to shift to zero-budget farming. But the real infusion of capital will come from European grants. So my thinking last year was, why are the European banks even interested in knowing about zero-budget national farming and then also going on to fund it? When the number was put out by United Nations Environment Program in June last year, the number was not small. It was $10 billion. They were going to invest in Andhra Pradesh to start there. And the first tranche of money, they said, would be $2.3 million. In Indian rupee terms, it would be 17,000 crores. When you look at the volumes, are the farmers insured in case there is a failure? There is no risk assessment would mean that there cannot be insurance policy. Right? No insurer will come and say that I've insured something which is brand new unless somebody gives an assessment of what the risks are, then they make an intelligent choice of how much they will insure it for. Later on, much later, we found that all the agreements were wrapped under Section 8 of the Right to Information Act. Now, Section 8 is very powerful section in the Right to Information Act. It gives sweeping powers to the state to ensure that we do not know what it thinks we should not know. But it is very restrictive. Relating to defense and national security and such matters. And of course, fiduciary, which we won't have a problem with. If it is a health data I want to access, I have no business. So such things must be kept confidential, and even the state should not have access to it. But why would contracts signed by Azim Premji with the right to Sadhikara Samskar have to be shrouded in secrecy under Section 8 of the Article? After all, they are speaking about farmers. And it is a technique which Palekar has openly spoken of. And it's a technique which is on YouTube. And that's when we realize that the contracts actually hide the larger game, and which makes sense when you look at the Davos meeting again. Why are the bankers there? Because the aggregation of this so-called natural farm produce is not for our consumption. They are investing so European markets are flooded with good, clean food. Our farmers have now become part of a mechanism in which they do not control what they produce, they cannot process what they produce, and as Vandana said, why is Walmart interested in that space? The largest facility of Walmart is coming up in Andhra Pradesh. I mean, Walmart is not a small thing. I remember Simon's article a few years ago when he said, you know, onion is small, right, in India, country. But if you travel west, you will find onions which are massive, like a kg an onion. Right? And you wonder, what kind of onions are these? Because you don't see them. Apparently, Walmart hybridized that onion. Because it wanted people to buy, people will buy onions. But they wanted to make sure people buy and waste it. When they cut an onion is one vegetable which attracts bacteria very easily. So you can go cut a fresh onion. Whatever one is thrown away 70%. And that's good for Walmart. And farmers were forced to shift away from the small onions to big onions because of the contracts. And I'm thinking, if the network of financiers decide also what the farmers in Andhra Pradesh grow, simply because it is in the absence of chemical fertilizers. Where is sovereignty here? See, these are very difficult questions because there are no answers. And when some of us engaged with Mr. Vijay Kumar, and we asked them, why is there so much secrecy about it? Finally, the MOU between RYSS and APPI was put online. And they redacted much of it, but the good thing there is, they removed the Section 8 clause. But I've seen their agreements, financial agreements. And what worries me is the financial agreements are the ones where money flows to. And from what I've seen there, what worries me, and they have done it for 3 years, and the 17,000 crores is a way in which you capture a state. that they don't even know. Because if you see the Constitution of India and the Panchayat Raj Act and the 11th schedule is there. First item on the 11th schedule is agriculture and agriculture related matters are part of the Panchayat Raj system, not even the state. And RYSS is set up as a parastatal, and the chairman of it is the chief minister. Once parastatals take over, they normally listen to the diktats of the few. They're never democratic. So we have taken farming and put it in the hands of the most undemocratic parastatal that RYSS is. By design, it is undemocratic. By design, it is extractive. By design, it is dependent on financial inclusion from outside. And by design, it requires large markets. It's not about local markets. It's not about farmer to consumer. It's about farmer to farmer producing organizations which are independent of the Panchayat Raj system, and they feed the extractive system which the consumer is employed. So there's a paper I've written about this. But I just would like to close by sharing that when Nirmala Sitharaman dropped natural and ZPF, preceding that was a bunch of, so-called discussion notes that Niti Aayog took. A lot of parleys take place between Subhash Parekh, who meets the Prime Minister, meets some chief ministers, and next thing the chief secretary of that state adopts. I mean, there's no thinking, no discussion. You see that happening all the time. And it should worry us that it has become so easy to take advantage of farming in India. And without any critical appraisal. And some of us who have critically appraised it have received such horrific reactions. And that worries me because these are also from some of our own comrades who are part of the organic farming or farming networks, who believe that is right. I have no problem with their belief that it is according to their right. But I wonder why they are willing to accept it so uncritically. What makes us accept this system so uncritically? Especially when we look back and see the GMO and before that Green Revolution also followed the same path, and they know what is that was followed. So on that note, I will stop and I request. If you are running away, we won't have.
After that discussion,
We'll have Manjunath and we'll have tea and then we'll have discussions. This is democracy, by the way. I mean, we kind of did a ritual of democracy.
No, on behalf of everybody, you are taking the decision. Just like Parliament.
But at least place the bills before us. And I gave you 2 seconds to decide.
No, but are you worried people will run away?
I'm not worried.
You don't trust?
No, the tea is waiting for us is what I hear.
Yes, it's cold.
Can we take a break? We should have a break.
So please come back because Manjunath has much to share.